Hello, everybody. Welcome to Unfudge Your Marketing. I am your host, Kristi Mitchell. I am a marketing strategist and consultant, and I work with service-based business owners who have relied on referrals and word of mouth to build their business. And they get to a point where they really want to scale, they want to grow, they want to get some inbound leads for the future. And I help them create simple, strategic marketing plans in order to help them do that. Here on Unfudge Your Marketing, I chat with business owners who have had past experiences with marketing that didn't go as planned or hoped. There's no shortage of them out there. And today I am super excited to welcome Keith Allen John to the show. Keith Allen Johns helps leaders and entrepreneurs achieve the income and impact goals they dream of by helping them leverage powerful mindsets, tactics, and strategies you don't learn in school. He's a former COO in the tech space, a TEDx speaker, and has coached Harvard-trained surgeons, Wall Street executives, and millionaire entrepreneurs, the whole gamut. I am so excited to welcome Keith Allen Johns to the show today.
Well, that guy
Hello.
sounds cool. I would love to meet that dude.
Yeah, right. I know. I want to chat with him.
Good to see you, Kristi.
Good to see you too. I always like to give my listeners just a little background on how I know my guests. So Keith and I met on LinkedIn, just one of those, like I think just kind of kept showing up in each other's feeds because of mutual connections. I forget who reached out to who first, but we hopped on a call and I felt like we really hit it off.
Yeah, same. Well, you meet the best people on LinkedIn. It's great.
It is. I absolutely love the platform. So I am excited to talk to you today because when we chatted a while ago, I don't even remember how long ago it was now. We've known each other at least a couple of years, I think. And when we chatted, I loved how like open and honest you were about marketing and that you were like doing a bunch of different things. And I still remember you said to me, Kristi, sometimes marketing just feels like running through a field, screaming your head off, hoping that the right people are gonna like come along and want to work with you. Something to that effect. Does that sound familiar?
It sure does. Yeah, no question.
So with that, when I asked you if you'd be interested in coming on the show, and asked you kind of what you'd want to chat about in terms of things you've tried and experimented with and what you learned along the way, you had a bunch of examples of different things.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you, where do you want to start the conversation today in terms of kind of some of those things you tried and what you learned?
Well, in your introduction, you mentioned, having achieved a certain level of success with sort of some 101 level activities and that the person wants to scale, your audience wants to scale. And I remember being in that place myself. And that's where I chased a lot of things with poor judgment, I guess, without really knowing what I was getting into. So I sell premium coaching products. So some of my clients invest $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. Some of them invest $5,000 to $10,000. And it's really important that I understand, and I think your listeners understand, what their business model is and align their marketing with that. Early on, I was really successful with LinkedIn content and LinkedIn DMs and generating conversations with people like you, and inviting them to have powerful coaching experiences and seeing if they wanted to have more. Then I decided I need to scale. And my big mistake, so those of you taking notes, write this down. I thought I could leverage my largesse, my profits, and throw money at the problem, and magically new clients would arrive. That turned out very much not to be the case. I think I thought I could buy my way, throw $10,000 at Google Ads. That is not how it works. I learned that if you're going to add another marketing stream to what you're doing for your business, it needs to be in alignment. Because even if you pay someone to help you with that marketing vehicle, you're going to have to manage them. I don't care how good they are at email sequences or lead gen or Google Ads or all the other things I've tried. You're going to have to be right there in the trenches with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that the hard way. I've tinkered around on Facebook a while back with groups and nurturing that. And like I said, I did some Google ad things. And I really underestimated what it takes to get good at each channel. And that was a big lesson for me.
Yeah, so I feel like these conversations always go similarly, and there's a whole bunch of like things that you talk about right up front, and I want to like tease out a couple of big ones.
Great.
So let's go back to your point about you thought you could just throw money at the problem. I'm smiling when you're saying that, not because I take joy in the pain that you felt at all. I don't. But this is so common. I see it so often. And sometimes I get people referred to me, and either we can tease it out through email before we even hop on a call, or we get on the call and the business owner is so singularly focused on one tactic.
Yeah.
And I know that if they're not willing to listen to what I have to say and consider how a bigger picture strategic marketing plan is where they need to start, they're not going to be a good fit to work with me, because they're like, I just need to do this one thing and this is going to solve all my problems. And it's funny that we're talking about this too, because I posted something similar on LinkedIn today. Yeah. There's no silver bullet. There's no one thing that's going to fix it all.
That's right. And I love my service providers. I will get you $20,000 in 3 months or your money back. Like, that is not going to arrive on your doorstep in a box with a bow because you invested $5,000 in the program and they promised you 20 back. I have done that and never gotten my 20 back. Okay. Yeah. It requires hard work and it requires you. That doesn't mean you can't use your profits for leverage, but it's about leverage and not a silver bullet. There's a big difference between those two things.
Yeah. So I think that's an important piece I just wanted to like pull out of that is the fact that like there's not gonna be one thing that you could just throw money at and be like, yep, that's solving my problem. Yeah. It's taking that into whatever those tactics are into consideration with the whole big marketing picture, right? Yeah. What I always talk about it in terms of like puzzle, right? Like building a puzzle for a business owner, and what are the tactics, those little puzzle pieces that come together to create that marketing plan. So the next thing I want to talk about, and I've had another guest touch on this as well, is that just because you hire a provider doesn't mean that you're just done, right?
Just send me the money. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's true. But if you find good people to work with who want feedback, I've got a little lead gen team I'm working with now, and they're so earnest and they're worth every dollar I spend, and they care and they know how important this business is to me and my family. But I have to be present. I'm on Slack with them every day, giving feedback, telling them how things are going. It is much more like being a manager and having employees than it is having hired a vendor who just does stuff for you. Even if they're really good at what they do, they got to get good at doing it for you, for your audience, right? And that's the lesson I learned. That's where the leverage is, right? It's not a silver bullet. It's, I can't do it all, but I also can't just farm it out and walk away. I have to farm out 90% of it, and it's going to need 10% of me, and it might not work for the first 3 months. I set aside a $10,000 budget for Google Ads, and that was the ceiling. And when that money was gone, I was out, pulled back from the table, not realizing how long and how much I had to spend, not for them to get good at Google Ads, my vendor, but for me to help them get good for me. Was going to take a lot more cash, especially in the coaching business. I was competing against the entire country of coaches, and here's little small fry Keith trying to get leads. I mean, I was naive.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's an important distinction that you make, right? That like, yes, you hire providers to help you because you get to this point where you realize you can't do it all on your own. You need to offload, you need to get help with it. But being engaged in those partnerships is so key. And that is a point that I've heard from past guests as well, is like, there needs to be this collaborative relationship. And I think that that's an area where business owners can take a look maybe at some of those existing relationships they might already have with marketing providers. And especially if they're going out looking for new ones, is how collaborative is that relationship? How well do they take feedback from you? How involved are you in that discussion? Or are they just like, yep, pay the bill, we got this, we don't need your involvement? Could be a little bit of a red flag, maybe.
Yeah, without question. It's just a mindset shift. And I think it's really important to talk to people who have used the service and understand what it's really like behind the scenes, behind the offer, right? There's a really cool podcast out there called The Podcast for Coaches. It's by Mark Butler. And there's actually an episode, I recommend people check it out. He teaches you how to read a sales page, right? And how to like go through and know what's true-ish. Like, yes, we can make you $20,000 in 3 months, but take that with a grain of salt and how to really understand what's going on. I'm not saying that these people who provide these services are dishonest. I believe they can produce the results. I think it's murky what's required. And that's the part you've got to understand.
Yes. Yeah. And what a great question too, like to ask in that conversation, maybe when you're vetting partners, is what's going to be required of me in this relationship? And I think, like we just said, it could be a red flag if they're like, oh, you won't need to do anything. Like, well,
turnkey.
Yeah.
There is no turnkey.
Maybe this isn't quite the honest, open, transparent conversation I'm looking for. But yeah, they can answer that question and say, okay, here's what I'm going to need from you. This is what, how we'll communicate and how often we'll meet and touch base and all those things. I think that can be a helpful conversation to have.
And I think many service providers do it for themselves once. It works. And they say, now I have a system. And you want someone who's done that and then has adapted the system multiple times for entrepreneurs at the level you are. You don't want to be the first person where they're taking the system that made them their first $100,000 and they're trying to figure out how to make it work for other people.
Yeah.
You want to have been proven across a set of clients. I think that's really important.
Yeah. And to go along with that, Keith, something you said earlier was that, they have their process and their methodology and the way that they approach whatever that specific tactic is. And it needs to be adapted for you and your business and your ideal clients. And I think that that's so important. I still remember I had a discovery call a few years ago with a woman, and I was like the third or fourth marketing person she was talking to. And she just had this sense of relief because she was like, finally, someone who gets it. She's like, I am a service provider. And she's in like the HR consulting space. She was like, I'm a service provider and everyone's talking, all these marketing providers are talking to me like I'm selling a widget. I'm not selling a widget, I'm selling myself. Yeah. And I think that it stuck out to me because I think she just felt like she was another number and they're like, yep, we're just going to do this thing. And it's like you said, kind of these like empty promises maybe of like, if you invest this, you're going to get this.
Yeah.
And that it just doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't. And I think it's also important to understand what kind of business you want to have. There is a connection between your marketing program, obviously, and the types of products you want to sell. If you're going to do courses, get to know exactly what it takes to sell enough courses to make a living. So not only did I make the mistake of going down multiple marketing rabbit holes, I went down multiple product rabbit holes, which becomes a multiplier. Now you've got multiple things you're selling multiple ways, and selling courses is different than selling consulting services. Selling group coaching is different than selling premium one-on-one coaching. And you should make that decision very boldly and stick with it and choose to diversify your products with great care. Because there are a lot of people out there who have major product launches or major course launches, and it looks great from the outside, and you don't realize how much they're freaking out behind the scenes trying to get that stuff pushed across the finish line. Right? And so deciding what you want to sell and what product you want to deliver. Because for me, I dabbled in courses, and I've done some group things, and the groups had deadlines to fill, and I had to market against that. That's different, man. That's different saying I need 5 people by August 22nd, or this group's not going to launch, and I'm not going to make 20 grand.
Yeah.
Are you ready for that? This course is $500. I need to sell 100 of these a month. Okay. Are you ready to sell 100 of those a month and create 1,000 leads and try and convert 10% of them?
Yeah. That is such an interesting point. So what are some of those considerations that you think business owners should have in mind? Let's just take the example of like high ticket one-on-one coaching and courses.
Yeah. I think, and I land in the high ticket one-on-one because it's so low maintenance. My marketing approach is very simple. I do a little bit of content on LinkedIn, not as much as I used to. I kind of got a little fried. I posted almost every day for 3+ years. Now I've got a little team on my end that helps me find people and generate one-on-one conversations, meet and greets.
Mm-hmm.
And the more people I meet, the more deals I can close. I don't need to do a lot of mass marketing, right? So very much my schedule is I've either got coaching calls or sales calls, and I'm not doing a whole heck of a lot else when it comes to marketing. Now, if I wanted to do courses, that's going to require a lot more attention to detail, either leverage through someone else or I need to do it on my own. It's going to require systems. It's going to require landing pages. It's going to require A/B testing, price testing, you name it, right? If you are the type of detail-oriented person who that sounds exciting, cool. But if you think about the product you want to deliver and what it's going to take to market it, and you're not excited to burn the candle at both ends to do that, warning, warning, warning. See, I was a COO. I was a project manager. I was a VP ops. I'm tired of all the details and planning and things like that. Either someone's going to do it for me or I'm going to do it a different way. And I've landed on a different way. I mean, I make multiple six figures with my process, right? So I figured out what I want to do at this stage and what I don't want to do and what products I can deliver doing it that way. I think you have to have a real frank conversation with yourself about what kind of marketing excites you. Because here's the thing I also learned. When you pick a new channel, you need to get really good at that. So like with Google Ads, $10,000 and we'll figure it out. Call me in a year when you've invested 50 and taken your lumps and really figured it out. Oh, I'm going to do email marketing. Your first campaign is not going to be a panacea. You're going to have to get really good at that. So which thing do you want to get really good at and get help getting really good at? Don't spread yourself too thin, because none of these is a silver bullet. You need to be good at email marketing, good at Google Ads, good at content. And that's time, and that takes expertise. You got to work at it.
Yep. I love that you brought that point up, because I say that all the time. It's like, you don't need to go and do all of the things for your marketing plan. And I think a lot of times business owners feel that pressure, right? Because they see all of these options out there, like, oh, well, there's a new social platform, I need to go get on there. And there's
I must be on all the socials.
Yes.
Oh, please, for the love of God, don't do that.
Yes. I know. And that's the thing, is I often, especially in my marketing support group at our office hour sessions, when people are asking me questions, I'm like, okay, this is what I would do. You could ask 5 other marketers and get 5 different opinions, but this is what I would tell you. And it's the same thing when it comes to social. Some marketers will say, well, you need to be on at least 3 channels. I don't do it that way. That's not what I tell them. A lot of times my clients come to me, they're on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And when we really look at like what's happening behind the scenes, numbers wise, content wise, like engagement wise, DM wise, it's like, okay, well, you really only need to be on LinkedIn, because that's the platform that's getting you the best results.
Well, here's the truth. Social is not your friend. It is an endlessly hungry monster sitting in the corner that never gives you a break. It has to be fed just about every single day. So do you want one monster, or do you want 2 monsters, or do you want Instagram and LinkedIn and TikTok? Hey, if you're 25 and you're just a rabbit full of energy, by all means, have at it. I'm not in a position that that's what I want to be doing. I will tell you this, though. I think that there is, if you think about YouTube as a platform, here's something to consider. And that is, to a great degree on LinkedIn, things disappear, man. It's got like 3 or 4 days max, and that content goes away. Now you can repurpose it, right? But the great thing about a platform like YouTube, which is a little bit of a sleeping giant that I'm looking to get into, that stuff's evergreen. Those videos don't go anywhere. And I'm talking to my business coach, and I'm working with my executive assistant, and working with my lead gen team. So that's what I've got built out. By the way, if anyone's wondering how I run my business, got an executive assistant, I got a business coach, got a therapist, and I got a lead gen team. And that's how I make $250,000 a year. Just me, no other people. But YouTube is evergreen. And so I'm thinking about creating a channel and breaking into that space, because I feel like my efforts will have a nice long tail, that 2 years from now, someone could hit what I built today and it could still be effective. That LinkedIn post I did.
Yes.
So think about whether you want to feed a monster and how long you want to do that, because I've yet to talk to someone who hasn't said they eventually got burned out on social.
Yes.
Because it's
You're right. You're so right. Everyone gets to that point. I love it when people post about it too. They're like, well, I'm back from a 2-week break because I needed it. I was burned out. I'm back now. All right, what's going on? You're right. I haven't like ever thought of it in that term, but you're right. It's a hungry monster that like as soon as you stop feeding it, like it's gonna stop producing for you. And I love what you're saying about YouTube. I actually am focusing on YouTube this year as well because I posted a video last fall. It was actually meant for my marketing support group, but I decided because it was like a tutorial video on how to do your first LinkedIn Live using Zoom. No other software required. And I decided to post it publicly because I was like, I'll just post it publicly. And then to my like shock and surprise, like 3 months later, it had like over 10,000 views. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I didn't even try. Like, I just posted it. I didn't, and I only shared it with my group. I didn't post it, but like, it was crazy to me. So now I'm like, okay, I need to be doing more here.
TikTok gets all the headlines. And here's this massive engine that's been around for a couple decades that people still flock to. And the key is what you said is how it works. It's not about feeding videos in and a nice, set of like a 5 in a row that walks people through some things and then immediately getting leads. It's about, from what I understand and all the research I've done, those pleasant surprises, month 3, month 6, month 9. And before you know it, like I get like 2 or 3 leads from YouTube and all I did was put up 10 videos and walk away. And it keeps working for you. Isn't that the solopreneur dream, right? That's why I've got a lead gen company, because I got so tired of me being the one that got appointments on my calendar. It's exhausting. But when I'm sitting at dinner and I see someone booked an appointment and that it happened without me, what a relief that my calendar is getting filled passively, not actively by me. And I believe that's what YouTube can provide.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting platform that, like you said, a lot of people don't consider, don't think about, don't realize. And the last I knew, second to Google, YouTube is the largest search engine. Like Google's first and then YouTube. Like people I think they don't think about it as a search engine, but it is. People go to YouTube all the time to look for things.
100%. Yes. And Google's changing. Like I go to Google now and the AI answers my question. I don't have to go to your website anymore. But if I want to watch somebody do something, walk you through. Where do I go? Go to YouTube, and I must interact with your content. The AI can't give me that video. It has to have you.
That's a great point. That's a really great point. There was something else I was going to pull out of what you just said. Shoot, it lost me now. But when you were talking about, I love how you shared, thank you, by the way, for being so like open and honest and explaining like, this is what my marketing looks like. And these are the people on my team. And this is how much money I make. And this works for me. I think it's especially valuable that we had that conversation about what you're selling and how your marketing needs to look different based on what you're selling. Yeah. And like we're saying in this conversation too, is everyone's marketing plan can look different. There's no one size fits all model. And that's why I work with clients, right? To say, okay, we need to have pieces to fit this framework that I use because it's tried and true. We need to have the puzzle pieces, but each of those pieces can look different depending on who you are and who your audience is and what you're selling and how you want to market your business. I love that you brought up that point as well. Yeah, how do you actually want to market? What do you enjoy?
1,000%. Here, this is something crucial I learned. I've got all these books behind me that tell me how to do things. And I don't follow any of them because every time I did, what I learned was it didn't fit me. As an entrepreneur, what I have embraced, and this fits for marketing too, is as I learn about what has worked for other people, and then I go on a journey to find what works for me. So then I can write one of those books, right? Because I don't think people who follow other people's models to a T with no questions asked and no customization, they don't succeed. You end up running someone else's stuff. You started as an entrepreneur to do your own thing. So don't worship other approaches or other business people. Find a good vendor, someone like you, Kristi, who can partner with you to discover their magic and then take that there because that's fun to operate. It's yours. And then you get to go on calls like this and say, yeah, here's how I did it my own way. Isn't that what we want? Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Earn those bragging rights. I love it.
Right.
Awesome. Well, Keith, I think that this was a really valuable conversation. I feel like we gave the audience so much to consider and apply to their own businesses. Is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you want to touch on, or any points you already said that you just kind of want to hammer home? I felt like that was a really good note to end on, but you have a lot of them.
I was actually worried. I thought, oh, we only have half an hour. I think we nailed it. I think we got some really key points across on this that have taken me 4+ years to learn, that I can't say I wish I knew them, because if I had known them, I would have just found 10 other things to do wrong, right? That's just the entrepreneur's journey. You cannot be given the answers in a box and be perfect. So, but those are 5 mistakes you can avoid making that I made, and you can go find your own mistakes to make.
There you go. We all have our own mistakes to make. I like it. Awesome. Well, Keith, if anybody wants to get in touch with you to have a conversation, maybe get some time on your calendar, what is the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, I would love to talk to anybody who feels like they need some performance coaching, mindset coaching, some leadership development. I partner with all kinds of people, high-end entrepreneurs. I've worked with surgeons. I've worked with solopreneurs. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'd love to meet you and talk to you. You can find me at Keith Allen Johns. If you do a search, I'm the only one. Send me a message, or you can email me, keith@keithallenjohns.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Keith. I appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on the show.